Biblical wisdom here from Proverbs chapter 13 covering following topics: value of instruction, power of words, work ethic, righteousness, wickedness, saving wealth, pride, hope and fulfillment, fountain and tree of life, companionship and influence, parenting, discipline and legacy, justice and provision. Proverbs 13 acts as a cohesive moral ecosystem where character, speech and labor are inextricably linked to tangible outcomes of life and death, prosperity and ruin. Below is a breakdown of all 25 verses with their meanings and thematic interlinks. 1. The teachable spirit, verse 1. Meaning, a wise son is the product of his father's discipline, whereas a scoffer rejects authority and refuses to listen even to severe rebuke. Interlink. This verse establishes the foundational premise of the chapter. The reception of correction is the primary indicator of wisdom. Links directly to the consequences of ignoring instruction in verses 13 and 18. 2. The harvest of speech, verse 2. Meaning, a person enjoys good things based on the fruit of their mouth, speech, while the unfaithful have an appetite for violence. To link, this begins a thematic bridge using the multipurpose word nephesh, soul, appetite, mouth, which recurs in verses 3, 4, 19, and 25 to link physical hunger with spiritual longing. 3. The gatekeeper of life, verse 3. Meaning, guarding one's words protects one's life. Those who speak rashly or open wide their lips invite destruction. Interlink continues the stewardship of speech theme, emphasizing that tight control over what one says prevents catastrophic ruin, which is expanded upon in verse 16. 4. Hunger of the sluggard, verse 4. Meaning, lazy people crave much but get nothing. The diligent soul is richly supplied or made fat. Interlink, this is the final part of the initial nephesh, appetite trio. Links laziness to the moral theory of labor found in verses 11 and 23. 5. The integrity of communication, verse 5. Meaning, the righteous have a deep-seated revulsion toward falsehood, while the wicked act disgracefully and create a spiritual bad odor. Interlink links the stewardship of speech back to character, and the reputation outcomes synthesized in verse 6. The protective nature of righteousness, verse 6. Meaning, integrity acts as a guard for the blameless, while wickedness overthrows the sinner. Interlink serves as a central synthesis of moral outcomes, interlinking with verses 9, 21, and 25, which further contrast the light and satisfied life of the righteous with the darkness and want of the wicked. 7. The paradox of pretense, verse 7. Meaning, some pretend to be rich but have nothing. Others pretend to be poor yet possess great wealth. Interlink, part of the paradoxes of status and security theme. It links to verse 8 by exploring how humans interact with wealth and status deceptive to the eye. 8. Ransom of life, verse 8. Meaning, wealth can ransom a rich person's life from threats, but a poor man avoids such dangers entirely as he hears no threat. Interlinks with verse 7 to show that while wealth seems advantageous, poverty offers a hidden protection from extortion and robbery. 9. The abiding light, verse 9. Meaning, the life of the righteous is a brightly shining light that rejoices, while the lamp of the wicked will be extinguished by God's judgment. Interlink, parallel to verse 6. It uses light and darkness to represent prosperity and adversity, respectively. 10. Root of strife, verse 10. Meaning, pride is the one unfailing spring of quarrels, while wisdom belongs to those who are well advised. Interlinks with verse 1 regarding the teachable heart. The scoffer's refusal to listen in verse 1 is often rooted in the insolence mentioned here. 11. Sustainable increase, verse 11. Meaning, wealth gained dishonestly or from nothing dwindles, but that gathered little by little through labor grows. Interlink reverses the easy money mindset. It links back to the rewards of diligence in verse 4. 12. The anchor of hope, verse 12. Meaning, postponed fulfillment makes the heart sick, weak, feeble, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. Interlinks with verse 19, which notes that desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul, and verse 14, which characterizes wise instruction as a fountain of life. 13. Reverence for the word, verse 13. Meaning, despising instruction leads to destruction. Fearing and respecting the commandment results in reward. Interlink, part of the pedagogy of the teachable heart trio, verses 1, 13, and 18. It highlights that despising the word is a capital offense in the covenantal economy. If you're still with us, please like this video and subscribe our channel. 14. The fountain of life, verse 14. Meaning, instruction from the wise provides life-giving wisdom that turns a person away from deadly snares. Interlinks with verse 12 through the shared imagery of the tree of life and spiritual rejuvenation. 15. Favor and hardness, verse 15. Meaning, good understanding wins favor, but the conduct of the treacherous leads to their own disaster. Interlink, part of the synthesis of moral outcomes alongside verse 21. It emphasizes that the path of sin is inherently difficult. 16. Prudence and disclosure, verse 16. Meaning, shrewd, prudent people act with knowledge, but fools flaunt their folly like a peddler spreading his wares. Interlink extends the ethics of speech and character into professional conduct. It interlinks with the unreliable messenger in verse 17. 17. The faithful envoy, verse 17, meaning, unreliable or wicked messengers fall into trouble, but a faithful ambassador brings healing to the situation. Interlinked with verse 16. Accurate news and effective diplomacy are presented as essential for societal stability. 18. Correction and honor, verse 18, meaning, ignoring discipline leads to poverty and shame, but heeding reproof leads to being honored. This verse connects social economic outcomes directly back to the teachable heart established in verse 119. Sweetness versus abomination, verse 19, meaning, realizing a desire is sweet, but fools find it detestable to turn from evil to achieve fulfillment. Linked to the hope deferred in verse 12 and the satisfied appetites in verse 25. 20. Education by friendship, verse 20, meaning, associating with the wise leads to wisdom, being a companion of fools results in harm. Interlink highlights the formative power of relationships in shaping one's character and direction. 21. The pursuit of trouble, verse 21, meaning, calamity, disaster pursues sinners, while the righteous are rewarded with prosperity or good things. Interlink final verse in the synthesis of outcomes alongside verse 6 and verse 9, ensuring those who seek wisdom find peace. 22. Generational legacy, verse 22, meaning, a good man leaves an inheritance, faith, character, and purpose to his grandchildren, while the sinner's wealth passes to the righteous. Interlink connects with verse 11, sustainable wealth, and explores the long-term continuity of a righteous legacy. 23. The pivot of social justice, verse 23, meaning, a poor person's field could produce much food, but it is swept away through injustice. Interlink sages recognize that while personal responsibility is vital, verse 4, a broken social order or systemic injustice can devastate even the diligent poor. 24. The rod of discipline, verse 24. Meaning, sparing the rod of correction is equated with hating one's child. Loving parents are diligent to discipline them early. Interlink returns to the pedagogy of verses 1 and 18, asserting that withholding discipline allows sinful habits to ruin a child's future. 25. The satisfied soul, verse 25. Meaning, the righteous eat until they are satisfied, but the stomach of the wicked remains empty. Interlink. This verse closes the nephesh appetite theme that began in verse 2, summarizing the final stability and security found in a life of righteousness. Thank you for watch video till end. God bless you more.